A lot of people ask me about my greenhouse when they come and visit the farm. They're wondering how I built it, how I did it. And so I'm going to do a quick tutorial about how I built our greenhouse and how I had to rebuild it after a winter storm. So this is the greenhouse in question. It is approximately 40 feet long and 12 feet wide. This thing is built out of salvage lumber as well as cull lumber. It's the kind of lumber that if you go to a lumber yard and it doesn't quite meet quota, it's bent, it's not straight, on and on, maybe it's got too many knots in it. That's what we built this out of. So the lumber alone cost us about $100. Typically that would have been $200 worth of lumber. And the plastic that you see is not greenhouse plastic. I actually use vapor barrier, and you'll probably see me talk a lot about that in other videos. So I use it for so many things. I find it readily available. Again, part of my criteria is it's got to be readily available. I don't have to order online or from Vancouver or from somewhere else. It has to be affordable, and it just has to be easy to work with. No proprietary pieces of equipment. So vapor barrier, you can find it at any hardware store. There's going to be some pros and cons to it. My big pro is that it's cheap and readily available. So this is the greenhouse. It has already collapsed once. It collapsed in the snow that we had on the west coast here, and that's very unusual. You'll kind of notice that the beams are not very high. I actually have to duck now because what happened was when it collapsed, a lot of the wood actually snapped at the at any kind of junction it was at. So what happened was I had to bring everything down a little bit where the ends had snapped. So this has been rebuilt twice. I have a large box fan. You may have seen in the beginning of the video that my greenhouse is on a slant. This is the lower end here, and then what happens is the fan helps push the air up here. I also have an opening side that we'll see in just a moment that I've just used tuck tape and a bar. You'll see that I have drip irrigation in here. Totally worth it. Stops a lot of the airborne wet diseases that happen from overhead watering and just makes things a million times easier. So we simply built this. There's a few different ways we could have done it, but really the easiest way would have been to build one wall altogether on its side. Build it on side and then raise it up just like a good old barn raising, and then you'll have that one wall, and then what you can do is you can prop it up and start building from that point. So coming out here, I'll show you again. This is what we have for the greenhouse, and I'll show you a couple other things about it. When you're building a greenhouse and using this vapor barrier, or I guess any kind of greenhouse material, you have to build slats because staples won't be enough. They will rip really easily. This creates more surface area and allows you to actually keep the plastic down no matter how windy it gets. I usually do the shortest screws possible, and I do about 1.5 inches wide. I used to take 2x4s like the one back here, and I would rip them sorry, that's really hard to see. I'd rip them widthwise so they were as wide as this, and then I started learning that actually just buying a sheet of 3/8 plywood and cutting it into these strips was much better. The wood didn't split as much because it's plywood. It's cross-hatched and layered, so it layers a lot better, and especially if you just have some scrap line around, you're gonna have to scrap it. So here's an idea of how strong it is. It's keeping all of this wall up. That's all done with the strapping that you see along the top. So anticipate it's one of the costs that you don't think about, but when you're building your greenhouse, you want to think about strapping and how you have to almost add it to every single beam to stop any kind of blowout from happening. So you put them on your doors, you put them in a whole bunch of places. So that's the only other additional cost that I can think of. When building this, if I was going to do this again, I would build it with bolts if possible, and I think bolts would provide a lot more structural integrity to the whole thing, but that's hopefully if I have to build another greenhouse. So here's the outside. I've used tuck tape to tape a bar inside of the poly. This tape is stuck really well. It's the easiest way. It was nice and quick. And then up here what I have is I have some screws that I lift the crane onto. I show you how I do it, except for I'm trying to operate a camera as well as lift. But basically, if I can find the center point here, what happens is I'm able to lift up the bar And then on each end, what I can do is I can put it on the 3 pegs that I've put it on each spot. And then what that does is it allows the airflow when it's really hot out. I don't have it up right now because it's not crazy hot out. So there's a really simple way of making a greenhouse. Be sure to comment and like in the videos below and let me know if you have any other ideas.